Hello everyone. Today my topic is Wein bridge oscillator. Let's come into the circuit diagram. Here our resistor and capacitor is connected. This is Z1. They are connected in series, and here one resistor and capacitor are connected in parallel. This is Z2 and here R3. It is Z3. It is Z4. So this here one node is connected to input and the other node is connected to output, and this is connected to the first transistor emitter. So let's come into the bridge circuit. Here Z1 Z3 equals to Z2 Z4. First Z1 equation is R1 plus XC1. XC1 means 1 by j omega C1. Z2 R2 parallel to XC2. XC2 means 1 by j omega C2. Here R2 by 1 plus j omega C2 R2 is Z2 equation. Z3 is R3 and Z4 is R4. Let's substitute all these values in this equation. R1 plus j omega C1 into R3. R2 plus R2 by 1 plus j omega C2 R2 into R4. Multiply R3 with this term and R4 with this term. Here we got the equation. R1 R3 plus R3 by j omega C1. Take this term to this side. So 1 plus j omega C2 R2 will multiply with this term equals to R2 R4. Next R1 R3 plus R3 by j omega C1 and 1 plus j omega C2 R2 equals to R2 R4. Now multiply these two terms. Here we got the equation R1 R3 into 1 R1 R3 and R1 R3 into this j omega C2 R2. Next R3 by j omega C1 into 1 R3 by j omega C1 into j omega C2 R2 equals to R2 R4. R1 R3 plus R3 by C2 R2 C1. Next j omega C2 R2 R1 R3 plus R3 by j omega C1 equals to R2 R4. Here we got the real terms and imaginary terms. X plus Iy equals to 0. Now imaginary term equals to 0. Here the imaginary term is j omega C2 R1 R2 R3 plus R3 by j omega C1. Let's take this term into this side. Now R3 gets cancelled. J omega C2 R1 R2 equals to minus 1 by j omega C1. Now j omega C1 take to this side. It becomes j square omega square C1 C2 R1 R2 equals to minus 1. J square means minus 1. So here minus omega square C1 C2 R1 R2 equals to minus 1. Minus minus get cancelled. Omega square C1 C2 R1 R2 equals to 1. Take the C1 C2 R1 R2 this side. It will become omega square equals to 1 by C1 C2 R1 R2. Here omega equals to 1 by under root C1 C2 R1 R2. Here F equals to 1 by 2 by RC. C means C1 equals to C2. R equals to R1 equals to R2. Now mod A beta equals to 1. So beta value Vf by V0. Z2 by Z1 plus Z2. At first we got the Z1 and Z2 equations. So we substitute in these equations. That is Z2 means R2 by 1 plus j omega C2 R2. Z1 means R1 plus 1 by j omega C1 plus R2 by 1 plus j omega C2 R2. R2 by 1 plus j omega C2 R2. If we do LCM, we got these two equations. R1 j omega C1 plus R2 j omega C1 plus 1 plus j omega C2 R2 R1 plus R2 j omega C1 by j omega C1 1 plus j omega C2 R2. These both will get cancelled. The remaining is R2 by R1 j omega C1 plus R2 j omega C2 plus 1 plus j omega C2 R2 R1 plus R2 j omega C1 by j omega C1. the j omega c1 will go to numerator. The remaining term we write as it is. Now we substitute 1 by RC in the place of omega. So here in the place of omega we substitute RC. J into RC by RC. Next, J in omega place we substitute RC. At R1 and C1 place we substitute RC. Here minus omega square R square C square plus 1 plus j omega RC plus j omega RC. Here RC get cancelled. Here RC get cancelled. The remaining is j minus, in the omega place we substitute RC. So R square C square. Here R square C square as it is. Plus 1 plus j in the place of omega RC. RC divided by RC plus j into RC. Here they both get cancelled, and here and here. The remaining term is j, and the denominator term j minus, here 1 plus j and plus j. Here plus 1 minus 1 get cancelled, j by 3j. J get cancelled and the remaining is 1 by 3. A beta equals to 1. Beta value is 1 by 3. So A into 1 by 3. At last A equals to 3. So hence proved. Thank you.